Credit cards can be a great financial tool, but if you're not careful, they can quickly turn your financial life into a financial nightmare. That's why you need to have good habits when using credit cards in order to stay out of trouble. In this video, we're going to cover 6 of the best credit card habits that are key to you being in control of your credit cards and not the other way around. Hey there, it's Mark, and we're back with another video to help give you the essential money knowledge you need for life. So, what do you say we talk about the fundamentals of some of the best credit card habits? Credit cards are everywhere, and just about everyone has at least one. I've got 4. In fact, there are projected to be over 1.25 billion credit cards in use by 2023. Now, with all these credit cards, there's a lot of opportunity for things to go terribly wrong. Things like carrying a large balance from month to month, missing payments, and blowing up your credit score are all kind of par for the course when it comes to credit cards. It's much too easy for people to get into trouble with credit cards, and without some basic guardrails to keep people on track, many people find themselves in a deep hole of credit card debt that can be very, very, very hard to dig out of. Obviously, that's not a good thing. So to counteract that tendency, I think it's important to have some specific habits in place whenever you use credit cards. With that said, here are 6 of the best credit card habits I think anyone who has a credit card should stick to and follow. The first habit, and it's at the top of the list for a reason because it should be the first thing that you always do when you use a credit card, is to pay the balance in full every single month. Let me repeat that. Pay the balance in full every single month. Paying interest on a balance on a credit card is very, very expensive. You don't want to do it. The average credit card balance is over $6,500. So on average, people are paying interest every single month. The current interest rate for a credit card as of July 2022, according to creditcards.com, is 17.48%. And that's for good credit. If you have less than good credit, the rate can be as high as 26%. Paying interest, especially that high of an interest rate, pretty much negates and takes away any benefit at all that you could possibly have of using a credit card. So if you are carrying a balance on a credit card currently, we'll be posting a video very soon, within the next week or 2, to help you learn how to pay off those cards faster and save a lot of money on credit card interest. So be sure to subscribe, hit the bell there for notifications to make sure that you get notified when we do post that video. One of the other big reasons that you want to pay your credit card balance in full every single month is that a large portion of your overall credit score is based on timeliness of payments. In fact, about 35% of your FICO credit score is based on making on-time payments. Missing a single payment by 30 days or more sticks on your credit report for up to 7 years. Just one payment that's more than 30 days late. So you don't want to make a late payment. Pay those cards on time every month. And when it comes to paying credit cards on time, if you can pay earlier, in other words, well before the credit card payment due date, that's going to help your credit score as well. That'll bump it up a little bit more. And if you are going to make a big purchase on a credit card, it can make sense to make a big purchase on a credit card, but you need to pay off the balance as soon as possible, no later than the same month. If you can pay it off right after you make the purchase, that's even better. Habit number 2 when it comes to using credit cards is to only spend based on what you can actually afford, which should be based on your budget. Do not spend based on what your credit limit says you could charge if you wanted to. Remember, if you can't pay for it right now, you shouldn't charge it. If you need help getting an idea of how much you can actually spend on a month-to-month basis, you need to be looking at doing some sort of budgeting. There's plenty of tools out there to help you gain more control over monthly money in and monthly money out. My favorite overall is YNAB. I've got a link to that in the description below, and I'll also post links to a couple of other tools that you might want to consider using. Apps like Tiller, Envelopes, Spendy, there's a few others out there as well. Or you can just use a spreadsheet or pad and paper, but you do want to track how much you can actually afford to spend on a monthly basis. If your credit card says you have a $5,000 credit limit, that doesn't mean you should spend $5,000 on your credit card. Only use your credit card for purchases that you can afford based off of your own personal budget, not what the credit card says you could spend if you want. The third habit to stick to when using credit cards is to keep your total utilized credit to less than 30% of your available credit at all times. Using more than 30% of your available credit puts you in a position where you might not be able to make the payment at the end of the month, but it also affects your credit score in a negative way. Let me give you an example. If you have two credit cards, one credit card has a $1,000 credit limit and the other credit card has a $4,000 credit limit, your total available credit is $5,000 in that case. To keep everything in line with regards to keeping your credit score to not have a negative impact, you want to make sure that you charge less than 30% of your available credit. So 30% of $5,000 is $1,500. So take a look at your total available credit overall, as well as total available credit on the card that you are thinking of using. So if that card has a $1,000 credit line, don't charge more than $300 on that card at any one time if you want to make sure that your credit score is not impacted negatively. The fourth habit to get into the habit of doing when you are using a credit card is to make sure that you don't have too many credit cards. I just said earlier that it's projected to be 1.25 billion credit cards in use by sometime in 2023. And most people have at least one card. Many people have many more than one card. The average is somewhere between 3 to 5 credit cards per credit card holder. I have 4 that I use on a regular basis. You want to keep your total number of credit cards to lower rather than higher. That being said, you do want to hang on to the credit card that you've had the longest. In other words, the credit card that has the longest credit history. This is one of those things, if you do that, it can help your credit score overall over time. So in my case, my earliest credit card was one I got back in college way back in 1985. I still have that credit card today, and I still use it on a regular basis. So if the card is still a good card to keep, try to hang on to your oldest card to improve your credit score over time. Now, when it comes to the number of cards, like I said, lower is better than higher, but you do want to make sure at a minimum that you've got at least cards from 2 different credit card issuing banks. Not 2 credit cards like 2 Visas or 2 MasterCards, but a Visa from Capital One and a MasterCard from Citibank. You want 2 different banking institutions for your credit cards because of the fact that if you do need to use the card and you've only got a card from one bank, you've got 3 cards, but it's all from Citibank, and there's an issue with Citibank and you're not able to use those cards, then you're kind of stuck. So it does make sense if you are paying off your cards on a regular basis to have cards from 2 different issuing banks. Also, if you have a card that you don't use a lot but you want to keep, like maybe the oldest card that you have, make sure to use it at least a few times a year. A recommended usage might be every 6 months or every quarter, in other words, every 3 months. Use the card, do a charge on the card. Doesn't have to be a big amount. It could be a small amount, $5-10, something like that, just to make sure that the card is being used on a regular basis. So make a charge to that card, pay it off immediately, and then that should keep the card as current in the minds of that credit card issuer, so you don't find yourself having a card taken away from you because it hasn't been used in 5 years. Banks can close credit card accounts for non-use. So use the card at least a little bit to keep it in the current mix of the cards that you have available. The fifth habit to stick to when you're using credit cards is to, at least on a monthly basis, so at least one time per month, review your credit card statement in detail. There's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is to make sure that there isn't any potential fraud or misuse of your card going on. So by reviewing your statement on a regular basis, you're much more likely to realize that somebody else has been using the card, or maybe there's a fraudulent charge, that type of thing. That's the best reason to review your statement on a regular basis. Another reason to review your statement is that it's kind of a conscious double check of yourself and the spending that you're doing on that card. By taking a look at the statement and what you've used the card for, what you've purchased with the card, it helps you realize what you are spending. So if you're the type of person that tends to get caught up and spend more than you should, taking that act of being a little more intentional with your spending by reviewing your statement on a regular basis can help you fix that and maybe prevent you from spending more than you would have normally. The sixth habit to stick to when using credit cards is to pay attention to any fees associated with the credit cards you have. The most obvious one of these fees is any type of annual fee. Now, lots of cards today have 0 annual fees. So in other words, no fees to use the card other than if you carry a balance and pay interest, but no annual fee to have the card on a regular basis. But many cards still do have annual fees, and that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as the benefits you get from using that card justify the fee that you're paying to have that card. So things like cashback cards, travel benefit cards, hotel cards, those types of things. If you are paying an annual fee to carry a card like that, make sure that you're getting at least the annual fee's worth of benefit from the card that you're using. So if you have a card that you're paying a fee and you're not getting any benefit from it, in other words, you're not gaining miles, you're not getting cash back, you're not getting travel upgrades, anything like that, that might be a card that you want to not use or maybe not renew, especially if it's a newer card. Okay, so pay attention to the annual fee. The next fee to pay attention to is any type of balance transfer fee. Now, you shouldn't be doing balance transfers from one card to the other, especially if you're following the other habits that we've talked about, paying your card off each month in full and that type of thing. But you want to be aware of what the fee is if you do transfer a balance from one card to the other. Oftentimes it's a flat dollar amount or a small percentage of the total. The next fee to pay attention to is going to be any late fees that are assessed on making a late payment or missing a payment. We've all done that occasionally. I've missed a couple of payments over the years. I just forgot by a day or two. And as long as you pay it quickly, it shouldn't be an issue, but you want to make sure that you know what any fees are associated with a late payment fee. The last fee to pay attention to is any type of foreign currency conversion or transfer fee. So this would apply especially if you are traveling out of the country and using the credit card in another country. So say, for example, traveling to Europe from the US and using your credit card in Europe to purchase something. Many cards will charge a currency conversion fee to convert from the euro to the US dollar. if you do travel on a regular basis, it might make sense to look for a card that does not have any currency conversion fees. That could end up saving you a lot of money in the long run, especially if you do travel. So just pay attention to the fees and take a look at those on a regular basis just to make sure they haven't snuck anything in on you. They can add new fees without you knowing if you don't read any updates or anything that they will send you, which they have to notify you if they make fees, but a lot of times we get busy. So double check on a regular basis just to make sure. Following these 6 basic habits when using credit cards should keep you on the right track with your cards and prevent any expensive surprises or expensive mistakes. Remember, credit cards are a great tool if used properly. If they're misused or not used as the way you should be using them, they can become a very expensive drag on your financial well-being and happiness. Now, here at Money Fundamentals, we'll be doing a lot more videos on credit cards and how best to use them within your financial world. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you are notified when we do upload new videos regarding credit cards and everything else related to money. And I'd really appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up, hit that like button down there to help the YouTube gods get more and more people watching Money Fundamentals videos so we can help more people just like we're helping you. And if you currently have a balance on your credit cards and you're working on paying those balances down, we're going to be posting a video very quickly on how to do that. In fact, it might already be up there. So check the link over here for our video on how to pay off credit cards faster and save yourself a bunch of money. If you don't see that video, you will see another helpful video that will help you in your regular money life. Take a look up there for a video on how to save money on your credit card payments and get them paid off faster. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, be well.